make costumes now because I think Holly's so cool. And that's a pretty remarkable feat for a movie. How many people here have been to Comic-Con? Oh, right on. Okay, so quite a few people. Well,
how many people want to go now after seeing the movie?
You can't. It's too many people.
It's sold out for the next 10 years.
I have to just start off by asking one question, which I think is probably the question, and you probably want to know the answer to this too. The comic book salesman, Chuck, what is up with he and his charge there? What's happening there? I know everyone here is wondering that question.
You mean his protege?
His protege. His protege. Was that his word?
Yeah, that is his protege. He met this young girl who he basically actually so he took under his wing, who she kind of didn't know what she wanted to do with her life, and she met Chuck and she liked comics, and he says, "I'll teach you everything I know about the comic business." And so now she's literally worked for him for now the past 2+ years, and she goes everywhere he goes. Yeah,
I'm just gonna leave that alone.
Better to leave it alone.
So I want to ask Holly. So obviously, this is such a great part of the film, and everybody. I've now seen the movie 3 times, and every time your card comes up at the end, everyone, you hear everyone go, "Yay for Holly!" When he approached you about being one of the characters in the movie, what did you think?
Well, I mean, at first I was just so worried because I was so busy making my costumes. And, he called me and I was like, "Oh, that's great. Yeah, okay, I have to go back and make my costumes now." So I was just very focused. Then sooner or later, we realized we had our film crew there, and we were all really excited. And once Comic-Con was over, we were like, "Oh wow, this is actually a movie."
Right. When did you first see it?
We saw it the first time in Toronto.
Was it very exciting?
It was so exciting. I cried through practically the whole thing, not just because I was like, "There's my friends," but also because, Comic-Con is home to us, and it means so much to us that it's become a huge part of our lives. So it's just a really emotional, awesome thing.
Do you think, as a Comic-Con veteran, that this movie catches the spirit of the thing pretty well?
Oh yeah, completely. And I love that it follows all of us that are fans. It shows people that there's all of us that just go there like them, and that we care about it so much that it really makes a big difference to us.
Yeah, the 2 things I got from this movie are it's an incredible experience, it's home to these people, and that Kevin Smith is totally insane. And the funniest man I've ever. Let's take questions from you. Right over here.
How many people did you actually wind up following?
Yeah, we followed 10 people, of which 7 ended up making it into the film. There were a couple stories that once you start just editing the film together, things just don't work when you start putting the film together. We shot 650 hours for the film. Almost all of that taking place over the 4 days of Comic-Con. We had a crew of 150 people working on the film. We had 15 full film crews that at any given moment, the film producers that were with those crews could pick up a second camera. So there could be anywhere from 15 to 30 cameras rolling at one time. So by the time, and every day, we would put together kind of our shoot list every day of who was going to shoot what, where was Holly going to be, where was Skip going to be. And then we would go through everything that was happening at every panel, every appearance, every signing, and then we would kind of divvy up where all the other cameras were going to be chasing people throughout the day. And then every night, as people would come back in, we would go in and all of our data wranglers would be downloading all the cards, backing up all the drives, and we would sit for usually about 3-4 hours and just scan through everything that was shot for the day, going through all the character footage, looking at all the B-roll, different bits and pieces that we just wanted to see, especially with our characters, so we would know for the next day where there kind of real salient story points that we needed to hit, things we needed to follow or pick up on. But it was a massive, massive undertaking, and it was, it's one of those things where you're shooting a film like this and you miss things constantly, and when you're working in this type of environment, you realize from that moment on, it's like the minute it's gone, it's gone. You can't dwell on it and think about it. You just have to feel like, okay, what are we not going to miss now? What's next?
I feel like you at some point maybe you thought about wanting to do some kind of voiceover because there were things that you missed that you just wanted to talk about, I imagine.
Yeah, we talked about, originally one of the things, we talked about having Stan Lee narrate the whole thing. This fantastic Stan, I'm Stan Lee, this voiceover taking you through the whole thing. And then as we started putting the film together, we tried to pull away from needing a narration at all. I just wanted to kind of have the story unfold without a narration, and it worked. It was much better with that.
It worked beautifully. A question right here?
How did you find the 10 people that you followed? How did you find their stories?
Yeah, we put out a massive kind of casting call. We called, we emailed comic book shops, we emailed cosplay websites, collector websites. Harry Knowles came on as a producer, and then we blasted out the Radio Cool News. And we probably had about 2,000 submissions from around the world of people who wanted to be in the film, and then we started just kind of whittling them down. You know, the first batch of people were like, "I'd love to go to Comic-Con, fly me there." Okay, you guys aren't coming. And then there were people who were like, "I'm going to Comic-Con, I'll pay my own way, get me a ticket." And no, you're not going. Because basically we wanted to make sure that it was people who were already coming. They already had a plan. And for us, it was basically about, it's a film, but you need stakes, you need a real story. We wanted to make sure that people were going there had a real motive, not like, "I'm coming, I can't wait to go and meet people, get autographs." No, you're not coming. You wanted to have people that you would become invested in. And so Holly was the very first person we cast. Like, we got her submission tape. If you go on YouTube, you can still see her, go on, look for Holly Conrad Comic-Con, and you'll see her submission video. And when she sent it to us, there were probably a couple hundred views on it, as like she showed it to her friends. And I watched it, and as soon as I watched it, I called up Stan Lee and Joss Whedon, Thomas Tull, Harry Knowles, and I said, just sent you guys a video, you need to watch it right now, and let's talk about it, because I think she should be the first person we cast. And we kind of used Holly as the bar that we kind of cast everyone else against. Like, here's kind of who she is and what her story is, and we wanted to make sure all the stories had that same type of passion and investment, and even for somebody like Anthony Calderon, who wasn't going there to find a career and change his life, but here's a guy who goes in his room of doom, makes his own toys, collects toys, but is so going there with the purpose of getting the 18-inch Galactus. Like, that is his thing. Like, he is on a mission. And what doesn't come across in the film is, like, Anthony got there 2 days before Comic-Con started and camped out and slept out on the sidewalk for 2 days. Which we tried to figure out a way to put that at the beginning of the movie, and there was no way to make it work. But yeah, for 2 days he slept outside. So then when Comic-Con opened and he goes inside, and so suddenly other people are coming from somewhere else, and he's like, "What the fuck's going on?" And he's like, "I've been outside for 2 days." Like, he was so mad. And then so we get inside and he takes off running, he's sprinting, and I knew where he would be coming in from. And Fortunato, our DP, who was shooting with the SRW 9000, a true HD camera, where you can overcrank to shoot in slow motion, true slow motion. We knew where he was going to be coming in from, and I told Fortunato, I said, "I know he's going to run." I said, "I know he's going to come sprinting through here." And so we had the camera set up right against these concrete pillars, shooting right towards the door. So the minute he came through the door, we got that shot of him sprinting through the room. Which, like, later that night, as we were scanning through the footage, we were scanning through everything, and I saw that shot, and I was like, "Yes!" It's just one of those moments. You're like, "We got that! It was so great."
I was thoroughly convinced that you had asked him to do that later, because
it was amazing. Like, we got that in that moment. It was remarkable.
Beautiful. Holly, I would think that one of the concerns you might have had was that there's a great opportunity to make fun of people. There's a great opportunity to take the piss out. And I wonder, did you ever think, "Wow, I'm trusting this guy to tell our story in a way that's positive," or did you just say, leave it to the gods?
Honestly, like, it never crossed my mind that people would make fun of us, because this is my world, so don't make fun of it, it's us. So come on.
That is so
I
beautiful.
I didn't. And I knew that Joss Whedon and Stan Lee were behind it, and Morgan talked to me when he called me and everything. I was like, this is going to be really cool. I mean, who was behind it, and the sincerity and what was going on? Like, I could feel it. You could feel that it was a project that was going to portray everyone as no less awesome than they already were.
That's a beautiful thing. I mean, one of the things about this movie is you hear people talk about documentaries as having to have that things that are just positive somehow are not successful. And I think what's great about this movie is that it hints at all the things that we know and think, and it just kind of drops them on the floor. It's like, yeah, these are geeks and nerds. We know that. By the way, what is the difference between a geek and a nerd?
Geeks used to be the guys that would just collect comic books and play with toys, and nerds were the guys that would write code and play with computers. And now geeks and nerds are the guys that run everything. Control the
Yeah. All right. Question? Yeah, fine.
What surprised you most about everything that's going on?
And what surprised me the most as we started making this film was I had no idea that kind of Comic-Con as geek job fair existed. As we started, kind of figure out who we're going to follow, what stories we're going to tell, and you start to learn about the portfolio review, where hundreds and hundreds of people come there with their portfolios to try to break into the business. Basically, they're putting their souls and egos on the table in front of the likes of Marvel and DC and Dark Horse just to have it ripped to shreds. It's remarkable that there's people who go there, just for that to happen. I had no idea about the Masquerade, that there was this massive costume competition that is as competitive to get into as the Sundance Film Festival.
I actually saw the movie with somebody who had been to Comic-Con a number of times and didn't know about Masquerade.
Yeah.
I learned about it in the movie.
And again, it's another one of those things hundreds and hundreds of people submit to, of which they pick 40. like 40 competitors to compete. These people work on their costumes for an entire year, all with the same type of hopes, as this is going to be our calling card to basically be able to break into the costume business in Hollywood. And the thing, and with Holly's story, what was great, also great about Holly's story, is that this was her third masquerade. You know, you're allowed to compete 3 times. Once you compete for the 3rd time, you can't enter again because then they consider you a professional. So this was her last kind of chance. It was her suicide mission to kind of go there and use this as her chance to break into Hollywood.
You know, what I think is kind of amazing and consistent with what we think we've learned about Comic-Con here is that I think one of the reasons that the fans love it is because what other convention do you have where the fan can come and have their work reviewed by the professionals, or the fan can go on stage and have people see the work? I mean, it's you know, at the tractor convention, somebody doesn't drive in there. You know, this doesn't happen.
Have you been to a tractor convention?
No, I have not. There you go.
Hi, I just want to make a comment first that I've never been to Comic-Con in my life except for that year that you shot that, so I'm having like a weird meta experience. Anyway, Holly, I just want to know, how did you fund your work before you sort of won the competition?
That's a really good question. I love it when I get asked that, because it's so like, you know, it makes sense, like, how did she make all these things? Well, I was working full-time at that time, and I was living with my mom. I was actually taking care of her, because she has MS, and I was more or less being her like caregiver at the time. So I was living at home with her, so I didn't have rent, and I worked a full-time job, and so I just literally spent all of my money making those. Spent it on all the supplies, feeding my friends, you know, driving places, doing all of that, and it was just honestly all my own effort just to make it happen. So that was it. If it didn't happen, then I was just going to try another career.
There really is nothing quite as appealing as passion. It really doesn't make a difference what it's for, but that people have it and this movie really catches that. So whether it's for a career or a small plastic toy. In the back there, gentlemen.
First of all, I think Holly should have an acting career. Morgan, I was going to ask you on the style of the film with the comic interweaving and that. Was that at the get-go, or?
You've been using kind of the comic book motif
Yeah.
to tell the story. I mean, the Comic-Con, you know, kind of, the whole idea of the con was rooted and kind of came from comics, so I wanted to make sure that the film continued to pay homage to comic books throughout the whole thing. That's why we wanted to have somebody who you know, kind of came from this comic book world, like Chuck Rosansky, who's been selling comics for 30 plus years. We wanted to make sure that the voices of the comic book world were very much heard throughout the film. Because again, that's literally where that was the germ, that was where everything came from. So yeah, there was some, from the very beginning, that was the plan.
I'm sorry, I'm going to just be more effusive here, and it's going to start getting embarrassing, but, you know, I think this is kind of a big subject, so you could have spent a lot of time on the history, and I just think you get all of that in such a succinct way, and you just get to get the fun, you know, you get the exposition that you need, and I don't even remember how, but I just, I love this movie. Okay.
What was your experience with the con prior to making the movie?
I'd only been to one Comic-Con before we made this film, and it was the year before. I was hired in 2009 to do the Simpsons 20th anniversary special for Fox, and I'd always wanted to go to Comic-Con, was never able to go. And the minute we got the phone call from Fox that this was moving forward and we were making the special, I was like, we're going to Comic-Con. I was like, we're going to Comic-Con, we're going to go there, we're going to cast for Simpsons super fans, we're going to, like, you know, so that was the whole plan. So we went down there and we set up this kind of American Idol-esque casting, you know, to have people come in and like profess their love to us, and there was myself and Al Jean and Matt Selman, who were all sitting at this kind of, you know, American Idol-esque table. As people would come in dressed as Homer, or, you know, do voices and talk about why they loved Homer Simpson so much. And this guy came in during the audition one day, painted head to toe in red liquid latex. Like, he basically had a pair of skivvies that were painted over, but everything else was like his body, his naked body painted over in red latex that had been sealed to his body, and he had some fake teeth in, and there was like black and things sticking out of him, and he says, I love Homer Simpson, you understand, this show means the world to me, this is the greatest thing that changed my life. And so he keeps going on, and then he finishes, and I was like, okay, that's amazing, but what's all this about? And he goes, oh, like he forgot. And he goes, oh, I'm Carnage. You know, like, you know Carnage. I was like, oh, no, I know the Carnage. I know, and I'm familiar. And he goes, yeah, so that's what I dressed up as, and, you know, like this morning, my wife, she helped me get dressed, like she painted this all over me, and then she and the kids drove me here and dropped me off, and I was like, wait a second, they dropped you off? And he goes, yeah, they don't really get it. at that moment, I was like, there is such a great story to be told about this place. And later that night, the most amazing thing happened. I was at a party for